Hello everybody, it's me. Welcome to poor quality beekeeping videos, because I wanted to create some videos that covered some of the stuff that I wish was available when I was a beginning beekeeper. I began beekeeping during the pandemic. I am not a master beekeeper, so if a master beekeeper or somebody from your beekeeping club tells you something different than what I say, listen to them. I have learned from experience. I've learned the hard way, which means expensive, and I'm trying to save some people some of the issues that I had, so hopefully you get off on the right foot. Which, two things: take beekeeping classes, and number two, join your local beekeeping club. They're terrific. Anyway, today I want to talk about the equipment you're going to need to install your first package. There are a lot of people who are on the install package, install nukes side of the thing. I'm not going to tell you which one to do. I install packages. It's partly because it's just what I've always done, but also I install packages because there's part of the process that's really fun. All right, so, and I'm sitting in here because I actually want you to be looking at this stuff. So I got together the equipment that you're going to need. You're going to need a hive tool. You're going to need some sort of pointy object. Maybe you have like a multi-tool or something. I have a bunch of Ginsu knives that I bought at the Raleigh flea market 20 years ago for like $1 for like 6 of them. So I have one of those. And I recommend, I couldn't find the small ones today. I also recommend you get some of the small marshmallows. They're very soft and fresh. You'll see why in a minute. And a rubber band. You're of course going to have your hive, and you're going to install mostly into a deep. I run 8 frame packages, which means that there's 8 frames in here in a length strength 8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A deep is what we normally call the brood chamber. If you run 10 frames, if you run a 10 frame box, it's a little bit bigger. If you are not super physically strong, or if you're female, or if you just want to make your life easy, you don't actually have to run deeps at all. You can run more supers. This is the size of a super. It's not quite half the size. Here, I'm trying to pull this over here. It's not quite half as tall. You'll see that it's like 2/3 of the way up if I lay them side by side. See? But you can run supers. And a super frame is shallower than a deep frame, so it's going to be lighter and easier for you to handle, okay? This is what a frame looks like when it has been built up by some bees. I had a dead out. This year they died of starvation, so I'm going to be reusing their hive. I'm getting my package next week, which is why I thought it would be a good idea to maybe try to make a video today for some people. All right, so you're going to need those. Now here's one of the things I want us to know. I've got built out frames, and I'm going to be taking a frame or two from my other hives that have resources, that have pollen and nectar already in them. If you're a beginning beekeeper, you're going to be installing on these brand new frames coated with wax. Make sure they're coated with wax. Coated with wax, but no foundation. Meaning, what is this one? Meaning when my queen gets out, she can start immediately laying in these cells. Your queen cannot. So you, as a new beekeeper, you have to make sure that the queen stays in the hive and the bees decide to put in the work of starting to build these out. Okay? I'll explain why I went into that in a second. Just bear with me. Okay? So here's what's going to happen. You're going to get your package. You can either get it delivered through the mail, the U.S. Postal Service, or you're going to go pick it up, or a combination. I've done the combination, but you're going to get one of these two situations. This is a wood and mesh. This is the very first package I ever installed. Okay, and a plastic one. All right, this one ships through the air, I think, a little bit better. It doesn't matter. It's up to the beekeeper who's shipping the bees to you what you're going to get. This big round cutout that you see on both of them is going to be a jar of sugar syrup for the bees. That's what they're eating during transport. There's also going to be a queen cage. This isn't one of the queen cages that came with them. This is I had a requeen. But you're going to get what it's going to look like. And that's going to be available in here. It's going to be stuck in here. Or there's going to be some threaded up here, and it's going to be attached here. It's going to be attached close to the sugar syrup container. The queen cage is going to be closed. You see how this is open, and you can see you can look at the top and you can see into this, right? There's going to be something blocking this. We'll talk about this for a moment. So you're going to get your package, whatever it looks like. This actually looks like it films a little bit better. You're going to have a bunch of bees around the sugar syrup and the queen cage, making sure that the queen is warm, she's well taken care of, and she's getting fed. The first thing you want to do is you want to look to see how many dead bees you have at the bottom. You're going to have some. Okay, when they make a package, they get a queen, and they just basically shake a bunch of frames, and anybody who falls in is in there. So you're going to have a mix of house bees and field bees. Some are going to die during transport. That's just the way it is. If you have more than an inch, take a picture of it, and you might consider sending that to the company. Read their policies to see what their return policy is or what the replacement policy is. You can see this one did ship through the mail. You can get bees through the mail. So you want to check to make sure that you don't have a ton of dead bees. If they're all on the bottom, if they're all dead, that's also not great. There might be a few bees clinging to the outside mesh. The post office does not like that, but they're not going to sting you. They're not going to harm. One thing you really, really need to know, especially as a beginning beekeeper, the bees are not going to sting you when they're in a package unless you try to like squish them. They're not trying to sting you because they have nothing to protect. They only sting to protect the queen or the hive. So if you're not threatening the hive and there is no hive, then they're going to not really sting you. They're not going to be interested in stinging you. So you don't have to be like terrified of that. All right. So what you're going to do is, I'm just going to walk you through this time. And when I get my package, I hope to make another video sort of going through that. Let me go over the rest of the equipment. You're going to need this because it's going to pry and it also helps you lift frames up. You're going to need the knife because this queen cage is going to have some cork in it. Now, what I'm going to recommend you do when you uncap the cork is to have your other finger right here. Because last year I got, shouldn't point the knife at you. Last year I got a package and I popped the cork off and there was no sugar left. The queen could have walked right out. Which is why you're going to have your marshmallows. And I knew what I was doing, but I also knew that a bunch of people who picked up at the same location, this was their first year getting bees, and if that happened, the queen can fly away. Remember, especially as a beginning beekeeper, you need to work to make sure that queen stays in that hive, right? And part of that is keeping her locked in here for 5 to 7 days. If you pull the cork out, which is what you need a sharp object for, pop the cork out, there should still be some sugar. You shouldn't be able to look in and see bees. You should see some white sugar, like hard candy or marshmallow. The bees are going to eat through that to release her in a couple of days, and that's what you want. You want them to sort of do the work to get her out there. Meanwhile, her queen pheromone is spreading throughout the new place. Bees will not leave the queen. If we have the queen in this hive, the bees are not going to leave this hive as long as the queen is there. If the queen flies away, they're going to go follow the queen, and now you have a swarm, and your $200 package of bees is in your neighbor's yard. Not great. Right, so that's why you're going to have some marshmallows. Make sure they're fresh and squishable. And I cut the mini marshmallows, I cut them in about half, just in case I ever have to go, uh-oh, and then you just shove a half of a small marshmallow in there as a little plug. Okay, it doesn't have to be jammed in there. It just has to be enough that it's going to take them some time to eat through. So you're going to look. So what you're going to do, I'm going to let you know the whole process, and you're going to see it in action, right? There's going to be something covering this. On a wooden one, it's a piece of thin plywood. You're going to pop up the plywood using your hive tool. Don't let that go because you're going to need to cover this, okay? The first thing you want to do is you're going to open it. Some bees are going to fly out when you do this. Don't be afraid. Imagine you've been shoved in a box like this for several days. You're going to want to stretch your legs. You're going to want to go to the bathroom. That's what they want. That's what they're doing. So let them go do that. They're not trying to attack you. Also, please do this in full gear. If it's your first install especially, please wear a veil, wear gloves, wear what you need to do to protect yourself. Because one of my beekeeping teachers told me, you need to feel safe that you're in control and you're not dropping the bees. If you don't feel safe, you're going to freak out. So dress in a way that makes you feel safe. Okay, so once you get the lid off, this piece of pasteboard or plywood off, you're going to have this can and you're going to have the queen cage. Sometimes you can get the queen cage out, like this one has this little slit, this big old slot. I pulled the queen cage right out, and then I clapped the, which I'm just going to use this as an example. So I clapped something over it to keep it closed again while I worked on the queen cage, right? First thing you want to do you see the queen? Is she alive? She's going to be in there with 4 or 5 other retinue bees, okay? So if she's alive, fantastic. If she's dead, take a picture, you need to contact the seller. If she's marked, you should see the color of the marking. I think this year is green. Make sure she has that dot if you paid for a marked queen. So if you see that she's alive and she's got ret newbies in with her, fantastic. You go on to, like I said, make sure you got a finger right here by the cover. Pop that cork if there is there. Make sure that there's cork and there's not bee coming right at you. They're not going to fly in your face. But make sure that there's something there, right, to keep them in there. The bees will eat through the sugar to release her. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your frame, okay? Now, I have a built-out frame, but we're going to be non-built-out frame. This is the top of the frame as it sits in the hive. You do not want to put the hole down, because if one of these retinue bees dies, she's going to block the exit, and the queen's not going to be able to get out. Some people say that you want it pointing up. Some people say you want to point it to the side. I'm indecisive. I do it like this, about a 45-degree angle with the up opening over here. So if anything that dies can fall to the back, the queen can walk out here. I also like to put it, as you see, in about the middle of the frame. I don't like to put it right at the top. I like to put it sort of in the middle of the frame. You're going to say, and you see, I want to make sure the mesh is facing up. I don't want to put the mesh against, you can put the mesh on the side. That works, right? I like to put the mesh on the side. Don't put the mesh against your foundation. No bees can feed her. Okay, that's going to freak them out. You want the mesh kind of facing the side, one side or the other, the upside or the downside, but you want your hole, the entrance, facing here. And this is why you have, this is beekeeping for the very nervous, your rubber band. Always bring us, and I recommend setting this part up before you get your package. That's what I'm doing today, and I was like, I might as well just film it. Get yourself a rubber band, put it on before you even get your package. So when you get your queen, you're going to be able to like pop, okay, there's sugar there. Okay, I know I'm going to put it this way, and I'm just going to slide it under the rubber band. Instead of having to go, oh God, queen, oh God, rubber band, bees everywhere, what am I doing? All I have to do now, boop, and I'm ready to put it in the hive, all right? So that's the super easy thing you're going to do to take care of your queen. You're going to put her in the hive. That's about the easiest thing you're going to get. Now again, I'm just sort of walking you through the theory here, and that's all you need with your marshmallows. You can eat the rest of your marshmallows later. Then what you're going to do is you're still going to have this giant box of bees. They're now going to be a little alarmed because the queen is not there. They're going to be a little concerned, but they're not going to be freaking out. They're not going to be angry. And again, remember, they've been stuck in this box for 3 to 4 days. They're going to really want to get out. They got to pee, right? So you're going to take the lid off. And this is the part that I love about package installations, right? Let me bring my deep. I'm putting together equipment for this here, so that's what this is. So here's what you're gonna do, all right? I'm gonna take, so this is the frame that I put my queen on, has the rubber band on it. Notice what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put this queen cage in here and have a hole where 2 frames are pulled away from the queen cage, all right? Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my package of bees and I'm gonna shake it. Maybe roll it and shake it, roll it and shake it. You're not going, rah! You're not going Godzilla, but you're gonna shake it like you're trying to shake cereal out. The bees are gonna fly everywhere, and this is the most fun part of installing a package. They're flying everywhere. You're going to dump a bunch of them right into the bottom board, right? They're going to land in the bottom board. They're going to start climbing up. What you're gently going to do, right, is put this here, and it might take a while because it's on bees. It's not going to hurt them. You'll slowly see it start to go down as the bees get out of the way. Then you put the other frame, so our 8th frame here, all right, and that's it. You've installed your package, right? You've done the job that you need to do. Your queen is safely in here, facing this way. Remember, her opening of her cage is facing up. The bees can access her, right? And you might want to make a little extra space, you know, on that side of the frame just to make sure that they can get to her. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to close up the hive. So you're going to put your inner cover on, or your feeder, depending on what kind of feeder you're using. You have to feed them, okay? Remember, as a beginning beekeeper, if you're installing on foundation, they've got nothing. They've got no resources. So you need to feed them, okay? I can I have frames that I'm going to be pulling from the 2 hives next to mine. I have frames of fresh pollen and frames of fresh nectar, and I'm going to pull those to make my hive look really attractive. So my bees are going to come in Monday or Tuesday of next week, and they're going to look around and they're going to see built out comb, they're going to see nectar, they're going to see pollen, they're going to see resources. They're going to be like, oh hell yeah. They're going to come into your hive and they're going to be like, there's nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing. Why are we sticking around? That's why you feed them. All right. So you're going to feed them 1-to-1 sugar water in the spring. So this doesn't have to be scientifically exact. 1 cup of water, 1 cup of sugar. You can do it in a mason jar with a lid with a bunch of holes in it. You can get a frame feeder, which looks like a frame. It takes the place of one of these frames. You can get a top feeder. There's a whole bunch of different feeders. I can do another video on that for you another time, but you have to feed them because the feeding is what makes this look attractive to them. They're gonna stay here because they can't get the queen out, but the feeding is gonna make them say, all right, we're gonna make a go of it. And the 1-to-1 sugar water actually stimulates the nurse bees to create the wax so that they can start building out foundation. If you have a friend who has a frame of foundation on it, that's going to give you a leg up because the queen's already going to have places to lay. But it doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world if you don't. I started with bare foundation. It's not, trust me, it is totally doable. So definitely 1-to-1 sugar water, and depending on where you are, you might also consider a pollen patty, a piece of a pollen patty no bigger than, say, a deck of cards, the back of your hand. A pollen patty comes in this big long strip. If you put the whole big long strip in there, you're gonna get small hive beetle larvae and waste half the pollen patty. Just cut the piece of about the size like of a deck of cards to give them the pollen that they might need. And you're gonna have some bees. So I mean, right now we have no pollen dearth where I live, and the nectar is happening. But your bees, what if it rains the next day after you install? Like, look at this weather today. What if it rains the next day? They can't go out and eat. What are they going to do? They're going to starve. They're going to be really not happy. You want to have resources inside the hive. I don't use external feeders. Use internal feeders. And that's why you might need another box. If you bought a kit, like this came in a kit, 1 deep and 1 super, you can use your super over your jar if you use a jar feeder on top of the frames. Okay, if you don't have that, if you have a top feeder, you can just put the top feeder on. There's a whole bunch of options, but please do, best practices, honestly, feed them inside the hive so that they can feed whether it's rainy, whether it's sunny, whether it's super windy. They don't have to worry, because this is a very small, weak little group of bees right now. They're not able to defend much. They can defend themselves plenty, trust me. But if my neighboring hive, which is my Italians, which is like bursting at the seams, if they decide they want, I had a front feeder, they were like, I'll just take that. Now I have a war, now I could lose this entire hive. I don't want to do that. Feed in the hive. Whether you use a frame feeder or a top feeder or the jars, the mason jars, inverted mason jars like you'll see people use, which is what I use, do feed them, because again, that's one of the things you can do to make your hive space look attractive to the bees, so that when they let the queen out, they're going to be like, yeah, we're all going to stay. There's nothing sadder, because I see this over and over on Facebook already. People installed their package and they're like 2 days later, they're like, the hive is gone. Where'd they go? There's no bees there. Well, they didn't die. What happened was they didn't feed them, and the bees were just like, well, I don't want to be here. There's nothing for us. So they decided to swarm, fake swarm, and now they're probably in somebody else's yard, or some other beekeeper has trapped them and is like, free bees. You don't want to do that, right? So you want to work to make your hive as attractive to them as possible. We keep the queen here so that they feel like, well, if we're sticking around for 5 to 7 days because the queen's not going anywhere, because they're not going to abandon their queen. If you sit there and say, okay, it's not so bad in here. We got the food up on the roof. We got the pollen patty up on the roof. Things aren't so bad. They're going to stick around. They're going to start making the building out their foundation. They're going to start gathering resources to bring back to the queen. It's going to be a much better option. Okay, I have never had a package abscond on me because I feed them immediately. So always make sure you have that ready. You can use the supplements. I do, because I'm bougie like that. I use the Honeybee Healthy supplements. Also because it smells amazing, the lemongrass, it just smells so good. It is an appetite stimulant. It also signals to the bees to come up to get the sugar water. make sure you're feeding your bees, and then of course put your top telescoping cover on. And then here's the key thing. This is going to be the part that drives you crazy. Don't look for 5 to 7 days. I know you're dying to know what's happened. The night after I installed my first package, it got down to 40 degrees and I was so terrified all my bees had frozen to death. Bees are tougher than we think they are. I learned the hard way. I didn't open the hive. Do not resist the urge. Resist the urge. Do not open the hive for 5 to 7 days. Next week, 5 to 7 days, you're going to come in and you're going to pull up this frame, which you're going to be able to spot because it's going to have the rubber band on it, and you're going to look to see that the queen is gone. If she's gone, bingo. If she's in there and dead, bad news. You need to order a queen ASAP or contact your beekeeping club for help, or if you have another hive, you need to pull resources from that hive, a frame of new eggs into this hive. But if you already have a frame, you probably don't need this video. So you're going to do this and try to remember to take this off. In one of my hives, there is a queen cage that has been there for 3 years because it's so well embedded into it. I didn't take it off after the first 5 days. It's still there. It's still there. Silly, silly, silly me. Let's not do that. Let's do better than me. So you're going to take that. You're going to make sure that the queen has been released. You're going to remove your queen cage, and you might start looking around. It's going to be too early to see capped brood, but you might start looking around and you might start seeing some buildup of foundation, and you might look and see some eggs. You do not have to see the queen. I know that that's a skill that a lot of beginning beekeepers really struggle with, is finding the queen. Go on like Facebook groups. A lot of people play Spot the Queen. It really helps you build up the skill of spotting the queen. It really does. And when you see your queens, you will get so excited because you feel like you just won the lottery. You do not have to be able to spot your queen. If you do, excellent. If she's marked, it's so much easier. Really consider marking your queens or getting your queens marked. But you just want to see that they're doing that. If they're sticking around and they're starting to build up, that's honestly enough for the first 5 to 7 days. After that, when you do your next inspection the next week, you should start seeing larva, capped brood, signs that the queen herself is laying, okay? So that's what you want to look like. But right now, you're going to install your package. Do not open it for a week. And then when you do, you're just going to check to see that the queen has been released and it looks like the bees are actually making the investment, starting to build out the foundation and starting to make a home here. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm hoping to make a video when my bees get here of installing. I'm getting some carniolans. I had a dead out and I'm installing them into the dead out hive, and so hopefully I'll be able to show you what it looks like in real life. But I wanted you guys to have the theory. And again, if you take nothing else away from this, have some marshmallows in case the candy is not there. And get a rubber band and position that rubber band around the frame you want to put the queen cage in before you even go pick up your package, so you know. So you're going to be saying, like, wait a minute, but this is all built up. What are you going to do? I'm going to smush some of this comb. I am going to embed some people just embed the queen cage directly in the comb. I have trust issues that it'll slide around. So I am going to just, when I get my queen cage, I'm just going to shove it in here. But you see, I'm putting my rubber band here already. My bees aren't even coming for 2 or 3 days. I'm already ready when they get here, that all I have to do is get that queen cage, check on her. I don't have to juggle around. I just have to lift this up. One rubber band will do. And you want to do this now, because let me trust you. You go out there with a rubber band and it breaks when you're trying to do it, and now you have to run into the house to try to find another rubber band, you're going to lose your mind. I also like the rubber band because you see, like we saw in my little fake hive, you can see on the top which one to look for, the one with the rubber band. If you do leave it too long, the bees will actually eat the rubber band and you'll see somebody trying to pull it out of the hive. So you don't have to remove the rubber band, but you know, you can too. But this is going to be helpful to help you spot the right frame to take a look at. And again, you're going to want to put it in sort of the central location. All right, I think I've covered everything probably more than once. I'm hoping to make other videos in this series, which is basically the videos that I wish someone had available to me when I was beginning to do this. I took some online classes and there wasn't a lot of, you know, really, okay, so you know nothing about bees, but you want bees videos. So I'm hoping to fill that gap a little bit. And if this video helped you, then that's fantastic. Then maybe stick around for other shenanigans. Oh, my other favorite part, before I let you go. Like I said, not all of the bees are going to leave here. you're just gonna prop your cage, and you're gonna see that bee march, like, which I'll show you next time when